Hi everyone, I'm Tina Olivero, the founder of Guardians of Recovery, and today I'm going to talk about solutions. What are the top solutions that the government of Newfoundland and Labrador can do right now to solve the drug addiction and crime epidemic? Well, for far too long, Newfoundland and Labrador has watched the drug and addiction crisis spiral out of control, while government had continued to fund policies that, in my opinion, have failed the very people that they claim to help. As someone with lived experience in addiction and recovery, mental illness, and frontline advocacy, I've watched families bury their children, parents lose hope, neighborhoods deteriorate, organized crime flourish, and vulnerable people are abandoned on our streets. We don't have an addiction crisis because recovery is impossible. We have an addiction, crime, drug crisis because, in my opinion, especially past governments have spent years normalizing addiction. And that is thankfully starting to change with the new PC government. They have green-lighted sober living homes across the province because they realize that recovery is possible. Okay, so if recovery is possible, that's one element of it all. But what else do we need to do? What do we need to do right now? Not just the government, but all NGOs, any organizations involved in recovery, and our business community. The first and foremost, most important thing is stop the drugs. We could be deploying drug-sniffing dogs at every port of entry, every correctional facility, and other high-risk locations where illegal drugs are entering our province. We should be increasing enforcement against organized crime and fentanyl trafficking in our province. So why wouldn't we have drug-sniffing dogs, at ports and in trap houses? As well, we have to look at this high-potency cannabis. Today, cannabis products can contain 25 to over 90% THC. And research led by psychiatrists like Dr. Marta DeForti have found that daily use of high-potency cannabis is associated with nearly 5-fold increase in the odds of developing psychosis. Now, a lot of people have argued against that over the last couple of years. They're like, no, that's not possible. But I have firsthand experience, and the doctors told me in the hospital that we have 4 times more psychosis now than we did prior to legalization. So let that sink in. So Newfoundland and Labrador should advocate for much stricter THC limitations and stronger warning labels and better public education on the mental health risks of high-potency cannabis. The other thing is that we have to stop calling harm reduction because it's not. It's harm production. Guardians of Recovery believes that taxpayers should not be funding crack pipes. We should not be funding needles. We should not be funding drug use paraphernalia. We should not be funding alcohol under the Alcohol Managed Program. And we should not be funding any other supplies without ensuring that people have a real access to treatment and recovery, first and foremost, because true compassion should always include a pathway to addiction recovery. The next thing is keeping the drugs out of jail. People go there to rehabilitate, and instead they're going to jail, being put in solitary and psychosis, being given all kinds of other drugs, and getting access to drugs in jail. So if we can stop the drugs and guns from going through airports, we can also do it in jail. So we need to expand body scanners, drug detection technology, and security measures to stop illegal drugs from entering correctional facilities in our province, and actually give people an opportunity to heal, have 12-step programs in prisons, make sure that families have access to their loved ones while in jail, and start building connection and recovery in the jail system. And having drug-sniffing dogs in jail is critical as well. The other thing that we need to do is put recovery first, not lifelong dependence on, fentanyl and then like Suboxone and Methadone, which is currently where we are right now. We have over 5,000 people on after treatment like Suboxone to mitigate the risk of opioid use. However, people are staying on that endlessly, and that's just another addiction. And people are overdosing on those as well, and taking Suboxone and Methadone with a whole plethora of other drugs, and nothing stopping it. So recovery is not lifelong dependence, and it should be our goal to make sure that any medically assisted treatment is saving a life, leading to recovery, and everyone should be using it as a bridge, not a lifelong crutch. Our people need to access counseling, on-demand detox, residential treatment, on-demand rehab, at recovery housing, and support if they choose to pursue abstinence and get off Suboxone and Methadone and other bridges to recovery. So the pharmaceutical companies are loving it, because they're supplying drugs on one hand, and then they're supplying the remedy for people who are addicted on the other. That sounds like the Oxycontin catastrophe on steroids to me. Let's get real about it, people. The other thing is treating addiction and psychosis like it is the medical emergency that it is. No one experiencing severe addiction or substance-related psychosis should be left suffering on the streets. That's what's happening here, especially in St. John's. And I don't know if you heard or not, but when the Liberals were in, they actually bussed all the people into St. John's who had addiction, mental health, psychosis issues, and paid for their buses in. They got in here and realized just how bad it was, and didn't pay for their buses back. So now we have had, thanks to the previous government, an influx of all kinds of people with mental health and addiction issues in the St. John's area, tenfold because of that initiative. And then also people coming from across Canada because they know that the system here actually enables the addiction. So for someone who wants to stay in addiction, come to Newfoundland. We'll pay the bill with your tax dollars. So that's completely unacceptable, and that has to stop. So the next thing is making sure that we actually treat people in psychosis. We need a brain diagnostics unit here, and we need to be able to diagnose with brain diagnostics and psychological testing. Does this person have addiction, mental health issues, or both? And all three require a different protocol of care. The next solution is stop with this tolerance for open drug use and alcohol use. We have to enforce existing laws against the public drug and alcohol use in our parks, in our playgrounds, our bus stops, and other public spaces, while ensuring people are offered pathways to treatment. If the police come by, they're picking up people who are using on the streets, they need to be charged. They don't need to be looked over, and they need to be offered an option right there and then. Would you like a ticket? Would you like to go to jail? Or would you like to go to recovery? And we'll see what happens. All of a sudden, people will be choosing recovery over charges. So this whole thing about drinking, doing drugs in public, that is a severe lack of leadership and should never ever happen. The city blames the RNC blames the jail system. Everybody's blaming everyone, but nobody is actually solving it. So that's a pure lack of leadership, and ultimately that responsibility is our premier's responsibility to fix this. So I hope that's coming into play next. The other thing is demanding accountability. Our public institutions, including police, health authorities, and government departments, must be transparent and accountable and responsive when their policies fail. So allegations of misconduct should be investigated independently. Anytime police step over an issue that is directly impacting the safety of our public, that needs to be headline news. Come on, media, let's get with the program here. So there has to be a structure of accountability. And instead of people calling into Crime Stoppers, which is not even admissible in court, we have to have a system in place where we can actually report police in action and hold the chief of police accountable and hold our minister of justice accountable. And sorry, Helen, but that's the truth. And hold our premier accountable, because these outcomes are completely unacceptable, not to mention the fact that they're ruining our tourism industry. Next on the list is we have to stop funding programs that produce no results. Taxpayers' dollars should only support programs that demonstrate measurable reduction in addiction, reduction in overdose deaths, reduction in overdoses, reduction in crime, and reduction in homelessness. The harm production movement and low barrier shelters have not proven that they have measurable results that are creating recovery solutions. It's quite the opposite. When you look at places like the Gathering Place, unfortunately, that's like the biggest trap house in Newfoundland and Labrador. And it's housing people who are continuing to use drugs there, overdose there, sell drugs there, and it's a mecca. And the park across the street is also a mecca for continuous drug use with no path to recovery. Like, let's wake up, people. Let's tell the truth about this. And who's suffering? Neighborhoods, the thefts, the random attacks, the jumpings, the stabbings, the downtown core, so dangerous. Like, come on. That's not who we are, and that's not what we're accepting. The other thing is that in holding these institutions accountable, I have, started Guardians of Recovery, and we expect to have measurable, tangible KPIs. What are our performance indicators? How many people do we have in sober homes that are actually thriving? How many sober homes are we opening and, ensuring that these people succeed, that they go to 12-step programs, they have recovery coaching, that they're getting jobs back, that are being integrated into society. These are measurable results which should be demanded of every single shelter out there. People should not just be coming to shelters, staying there as long as they want, or and continue to use drugs. There has to be a way out. If not, we're drug enabling. We are not supporting people in their recovery. So our medical system has to shape up and support people in psychosis, and our shelters should not be allowing drugs whatsoever. There should be drug sniffing dogs on site, and they should be facilities not to sell drugs, which is where all drug dealers are going now, and producing drug mules from those places with impressionable people. Those should be drug-free places with all roads leading to recovery. That's 10 solutions we can do right now. I've got at least 50. I'll come back and do the next video on what we can target as well. I hope this message resonates with you. If it does, please share it. It's time for us to be solution-oriented. Restore our province back to safety, restore our province back to recovery, and do the right things. Thanks. Over now.